The guns started firing, boom boom. Han was also running towards those soldiers, but they had fired. Suddenly, everything went dark. All civilians were frozen except for Han. He was panicking. What happened? He looked up, then saw a dark shadow floating in midair. Ah, luckily arrived in time, ha. Two people with 4 legs slowly descended like fairies on 2 sides. 3 people with 6 eyes were looking at each other. 1 person was confused, 2 people were calm. Han started saying, "You, who are you?" Hearing him say that, the assistant began to translate. "We are people from the future. He is the one who helped you, right? I'm just experimenting a little bit, hope you don't mind. And I'm very satisfied with your ability to run on trees, talk to horses, fly on rooftops, and your fighting ability, your observation skills, and your leadership skills. You are the talent I need, and that's also the ability I gave you to experience for free. So do you want to become the emperor here? Come on, speak up." "Haha, of course I disagree. I refuse." His words stunned Mr. Lee. He continued, "If you want to recruit followers, then you should go find those big guys in the north. As for me, I'm just a deserter, not suitable for your requirements." "Deserter, huh? Are you a deserter soldier? As the leader of the first rebels to burn down the warehouses and ports of the colonists, is that how you evaluate yourself?" He was surprised, not knowing how Mr. Lee knew about this. "Now that I've come to find you, it means you have everything I need." Mr. Lee took out his watch. Han was surprised. Mr. Lee continued, "I'm not talking nonsense." Then everything around seemed to change. Han looked up. "This can't be right. That person is me. This is something that happened a few months ago. How could it be?" Not letting him finish his surprise, Mr. Lee continued, "I am a businessman. Time traveling through time to get here, I can freely review your past history, what you have done. Anyone who goes through time will leave their past behind, leave their history behind. Because you were not satisfied with the high taxes of the colonial governor, so you personally led a group of merchants and workers, built ships into warehouses and lit fires to cook rice, conveniently burning everything there, destroying a large amount of silk and food or rare tea from the colonial transport company. This action of yours ignited the first flame of the revolutionary movement as a planner and leader. So why not continue your career and dream in the North? Don't tell me you want to become a wanted criminal in a place like this. Don't you think that's too boring and unrealistic? So don't you feel sorry for that or what, Mr. Hun? I'm just an ordinary little person. The biggest contribution is nothing more than destruction compared to those big guys. My ideal is simply absurd. I always firmly believe that God treats everyone equally. If someone takes away our freedom, which we deserve, we will take it back with our own hands to fight against them. I have been able to meet many people. All of us have to fight for our own freedom. Unfortunately, I gradually realized that my freedom, along with my allies, is not at all alike, although we fought against them together. We fought together, killed chickens, caught ducks, and burned knights, but in their eyes, slaves are still slaves, nothing changes. That's right, a small rebel like me, it's really hard to stir up any waves, any storms. Instead, now you are reduced to a criminal. Why don't you accept my offer according to your wishes to build a new country and implement your ideas, different from those leaders? Han sat down on the ground and said, although I still can't know who you are, you seem not to know much about human issues in this world. How can one build a kingdom in one morning, one afternoon? I don't have the confidence to accomplish such a big goal in such a short time. No, I replied, your greatest asset is your leadership ability. That's why I value you, and that's why I'm here. Along with that, I will invest a little time in you, okay? Time? How to invest? He asked in confusion. I will give you 200 years of life and your task is to establish another underground kingdom with slave owners. that is to call immigrants here and find talents among them. As far as I see, as long as you keep this idea, time is not a problem at all. Time has returned to normal, Mr. Lee and Hun have disappeared. Only the people were left, and the leader was suffering from autism and severe depression. Faster than a bullet, an adult asked. He just moved fast like a ghost in a few hours. When we chased it on the roof, it wasn't like that. He was tied up and knelt down and was managed by a slave. What is this fool talking about alone? The old man stood up. Give it to me, Nan said. This pig seems to be scared, causing memory loss. First, put him into some accomplices, put into the pigsty. Then, Hun will handle it. On the hillside, there was a man who was avoiding work and chatting leisurely while letting the people clean up the battlefield. His name is Steve Hun. It seems that your first step has been completed, so have you decided to stay here? Now they have started to change their thinking, at least I want to ensure that those colonists will not come back for revenge, he continued with Mr. Lee. Don't worry too much, sir. I will continue my journey south in the near future, and I will unify the entire continent. Mr. Lee encouraged me. I believe you have a clear plan for the future. Follow what your heart wants, but I hope you remember one thing. When everything is done, don't forget our agreement. Rest assured, I will keep my promise, Steve Hun replied. Then his lifespan appeared again. Steve Hun, 27 years old, remaining lifespan 246 years. He still wondered if what he said about the upcoming future, conflict and war could be written in history. If future disputes are not eliminated, isn't our effort in vain? Your question has hit the highest place in human inner feelings. But I can't answer you. When I meet you again, I believe you have found a worthy answer for yourself. But we will meet again soon. Here Mr. Lee and Tan Ao Su left, leaving him standing looking at the town with vague thoughts. Mr. Lee hopes we will meet again soon. Sir, where are we going next? Now all members of the martial arts club are enough. Now it's literature's turn. In front of him were many memory balls, each one was a world or the same world but not at the same time. A ball appeared near him, he was probably Mr. Lee's next target. Seeing this person, Tan Ao Su was overly excited. I know who this person is, his name is Amber, he is a scientist who wrote the theory of electromagnetism and appeared in physics textbooks. After Tan Ao Su told Mr. Lee about this, he began to think about how much effort he had put into learning physics well. This was indeed a great opportunity. Then he turned to Mr. Lee and said, We're going to meet him, right? I mean the one who is still alive, truly alive and healthy, because she is very diligent in learning, so let's go there, let's visit this legendary master. I don't know what era this is. The sky was dark and there was a room with a light on. There was a meaningless whispering voice. Could it be that the formula was written wrong? Not. Do I have to start over? So these past few days have been useless? Let me see the important steps. What if I find something tomorrow? He didn't know there was a light behind him. The figures of two people gradually appeared. The two of them stood still and looked at him from behind, not saying anything. They were slightly disappointed because he ignored them and just stared at the pile of drafts on the table. He read books and talked to himself. At this point, Tan Ao Su reached out and said hello. But he still didn't notice. She turned to Mr. Lee and said, Sir, it seems you've been ignored. This is the first time ever. Although he is known for his passion for learning and working, this is a bit. I don't know. Why are the people I notice always weird ones? Mr. Lee and the secretary murmured behind my back, making me unable to concentrate. He shouted. You guys in the back, can you be quiet? I don't care if you guys are a loving couple or a ghostly couple. Don't bother me. Let me figure all this out first. Sir, shall we wait for him? Still talking, huh? Can you give him some peace? Oh my God, with his personality like that, I don't know what will happen after we gather him with those old guys. This case is difficult, she turned to ask Mr. Lee. Sir, shall we just wait like this? Mr. Lee couldn't stand it anymore and sped up time so he could finish his work. After a while, he finished and started to relax. Perfect. Done. Today I'm really tired. It's probably time to eat how instant noodles. But when he looked at the clock he was surprised. Oh my God, why did it only take 1 hour? Didn't I spend a night calculating? It can't be like this, I understand. Surely the time on this watch is completely wrong. At this point he turned around and saw Mr. Lee's figure. He started to exclaim, "Who are you guys? When did you come in here?" Mr. Lee spoke up. "Are you mistaken? We've been here all along. You were complaining about time earlier, that's right. If calculated by normal time, then you really have had quite a long night there, huh? What are you talking about?" The secretary then started to talk about gifts when Mr. Amber interrupted her before she could finish her sentence. "I remember you guys now, you can only be ghosts," he said, and then called out loudly enough to wake up the whole neighborhood. The secretary quickly reassured Mr. Amber, "Calm down. We mean no harm." He was scared and said, "Don't come over here." His hand grabbed the ink bottle and threw it at Mr. Lee. "Go away quickly, ghost." At this point Mr. Lee used his power to make the ink bottle stop in midair. Oh my God, it stopped in the air. He fell down in fear and asked anxiously, "Why are you looking for me?" Mr. Lee spoke up, "I'm not any kind of deity or anything like that, I'm just a time merchant. Wandering along the long river of this timeless, Mr. Amber, listen, this is a message from the future." "What is the future?" "An invitation to me. My boss said that your knowledge is very respectable. If you can live longer, I believe you can contribute more to science. I'm just a humble lecturer, I can't even enter the gate of the Royal Academy anymore. And they also have certain requirements about origin. Thinking this way, I feel that my spirit and confidence have been shaken, the important point of a long life has been overlooked. Mr. Amber, you should have more confidence in yourself. According to what I know, your future is not limited here. Yes, that's right, you guessed it, I will become a great mathematician in the future, right? Your boss is the field of your greatest achievement, isn't it here?" "What do you mean?" "I want you to see this." Mr. Lee again projected the chicken selection file into his eyesight. "Inside are things in the modern world, what you see are some images in the future world, and that's also where you're about to show your big plan, future. It's unbelievable. You're not the only one chosen to participate in this future world. Try to imagine a bit, you will work with great people who have made great contributions to science and history, just that alone is enough to make you excited, right? So even the father of geometry who lived thousands of years ago is also allowed? Of course, if you want. You don't need to worry, it's all true, so do you want to accept our invitation to join us? Are you kidding me? In a future where historical figures can be seen alive. Then only a fool would refuse. Alright, if you agree, next my boss will give you 200 years of life. Sometime in the future someone will come looking for you and take you back with us. Until then, enjoy your long life. Give me 200 years? Nothing at all, this is just one of the privileges of club members only. Next, prepare to receive this gift. But something's wrong now? His lifespan number is unstable, flickering unclear numbers, his body glows. Mr. Lee felt something was wrong. Why is that? 2 years? Why is it 2 years? He put his hand on his head feeling dizzy, there was something blocking his life force for him. Could it be that he's not human? I've never encountered this situation since I started time traveling, so where's the problem? Even I can't detect the cause. Mr. Lee was thinking when he turned back and looked at Mr. Amber. His body had a yellow thread stuck like spider silk, even his secretary was shocked. Mr. Amber, what's wrong with you? Don't touch the time on his body, there's a strange phenomenon happening. If she touches it and gets counteracted then what? Hearing that she turned pale. Perhaps this is currently blocking my time. Your level is too low, if sucked in then, saying that Mr. Lee remembered, wait a minute. Level huh? The mountain is high, then there will be higher mountains. People are also like that. The history and achievements of Amber, a famous electromagnetic theorist, can be said to be the basis for all subsequent generations of electrical research. His contributions are clearly visible. Although the development of mathematical theory is not solely his achievement, he is talented enough to be considered a leading expert in the field. So, sir, what should we do now? At this point, he no longer felt pain. Mr. Lee extended his hand and emitted a beam of light towards Amber. But as it approached, his body was protected by a yellow shield. Indeed, this protection is strict. It seems that to get such a heavyweight character, I will definitely have to pay a higher price. The girl Tanao's suit turned her neck 360 degrees and asked, Sir, have we encountered a ghost? Your neck rotation is more like a ghost. Don't worry, lady, speaking to my idol, he's not dead yet, it's just that the other party is not satisfied with the price I offered. The girl asked in confusion, who is the other party? That's the law of time. As for Mr. Amber on the other side, listening to their conversation without understanding anything, it's clear that this old man Amber is different from the geniuses we've had before. The law of time seems to value this person very much. This is going to be difficult. The law of time? It's blocking us, not exactly blocking us, it's more like I'm having an auction with the law of time. That's fine, let me see what betting on time will get me and how. Mr. Lee's watch emitted black smoke, then Mr. Lee and Amber disappeared, leaving only the girl in the room. She looked around the room and said, Boss, where are you? Mr. Amber? Where is the boss? Oh my God, don't leave me alone here. I can't find a job here. On Mr. Lee's side, a river of light appeared and he moved somewhere in space-time. He slowly opened his eyes and saw Amber trapped in a blue sphere, screaming incessantly, What's going on? What's happening? Save me. Mr. Lee replied, Not yet, just stay there for a while. Mr. Lee turned around and saw behind him a yellow ring like a time ring with something rising from it. Its body was translucent and you could see the entire galaxy. Mr. Lee confidently said, Finally met it. I will continue with that huge thing. Here, fight with you to the end. The law of time heard this and said, Amber, I've chosen this person now, hurry up and bid. The law of time created an energy sphere that grew larger each day. Inside were images of Amber's memories such as him standing on a podium discussing science and other things. Seeing these scenes made him exclaim, Wait. What are these scenes? What kind of magic is this? It's not magic, it's time. At this point, the law of time was doing something. It looked at Mr. Lee affectionately. Mr. Lee was lifted into the air by its light force and then thrown away by it. Mr. Lee felt an overwhelming force. This was the power of time. Well. Is this the price of the Lord of Time? It seems that the law of time values his future achievements very much. If so, I should also show some sincerity. Then, Mr. Lee picked up his watch and spoke about his experience in attracting customers and trading time. He said, I am an expert in this field. The watch spun at a very high speed, creating a huge energy stream. After a while, his lifespan jumped dramatically, and it was unclear how much was left. It seems that it won't be easy to take this person away. That's fine, let's see how much desire this big person has. I have plenty of time, you can take it as you please. This is indeed a race to burn lifespan. On the secretary's side, she was talking to herself. He's been gone for so long, I wonder how much longer I have to sit here. As soon as she finished speaking, Mr. Lee appeared with the goods. Sir, you're back, she said. This is indeed a wonderful experience. To get his 200 years of lifespan, time has swallowed hundreds of thousands of years of my lifespan. Hearing this, The girl was shocked and exclaimed, "Did I hear that wrong? Hundreds of thousands of years? Isn't that too expensive?" Mr. Lee pretended not to care about the amount. But in reality, he probably regretted it. "No problem, consider this an investment. Let's go now, shall we? We're leaving without saying anything? What if he wakes up and thinks everything that happened was just a dream? Don't worry about this. In the end, time will prove everything." Then, Mr. Lee and Tan Ao Su returned to the river of time. "Sir, where are we going next?" From this incident, we can conclude that the more scientists have a profound influence on future generations, the more time they consume. Even though this number may be innocent, it probably can't fill the bottomless pit of lifespan under the law of time. Mr. Lee's remaining lifespan is 2 million years. Now, who will be our next plan? Let me see, I have noted it down on this note. Next is the AC power expert V Black, chemist Mike Chi Van Op, electronics scientist O Dan Tae Hung. These are all big shots who can promote the development of civilization. I think the amount of time consumed to get these people won't be low. It seems that I need a reasonable time distribution plan. I'm feeling a bit tired already. Let's skip the chemist and focus on those who specialize in electricity. Firstly, according to the direction of technological development, we focus on one field at a time. What about the people on the planning board? Sir, what did I say? Did you forget? It will be carried out in the future and continue under the witness of the law of time and the inertia of history's self-modification. I had to spend more time signing contracts with these great scientists. The added time will be counted in hundreds of thousands of years. But I can see that there has been a new law from the beginning. This is also a unique experience in the world. Mr. Lee and Tan Ao Su went to another era to recruit talents, but it seemed that it was still in its mother's belly. Today is October 7th, 1857. He is the last one in our journey this time, and he will be born. Today, there is always a carriage moving. Inside the carriage, there is a pregnant woman with her husband. Hang in there, Diana, we're almost at the hospital, my love. You've already been a mother of 3 children, so this time it won't be a problem. But this time it hurts a lot. How much longer? My Diana, I can't stand it anymore. Yes, sir, I will try my best to hurry. The carriage is running on the empty street. It's coming, it's coming. The mother is having difficulty giving birth, sir, please look. Mr. Lee calmly replied, the debut of a great character is always full of ups and downs, Tan Ao Su. Let's go, are you surprised? Where are we going now, sir? Mr. Lee confidently replied, of course we go with the flow. I don't want the future member of my club to die in the womb. Tan Ao Su misunderstood. Does sir want to help deliver the baby? I can't stand you anymore, let's go quickly. The woman in the carriage screamed in pain, sweating profusely. No more, no more. The husband yelled anxiously at the damn carriage driver, why haven't we arrived yet? The coachman replied, sir, the horse has reached its limit. Mr. Lee and Tan Ao Su stood on top of the building watching them. Mr. Lee continued to wind up his watch to speed up the horse. Not only that but also accelerated the carriage itself and arrived at the hospital in no time. Hearing the screams of the mother giving birth, Tan Ao Su wondered if history would change because of this difficult mother. Mr. Lee reassured her, don't worry, didn't I tell you that everything is true and predetermined? These 2 mothers and children will definitely be safe. The father sat outside waiting anxiously when he heard his son crying out loud, has she given birth? Sir, my wife has given birth to a boy. What about my wife? Is she okay? Can I see her now? Of course you can. Please follow me. Oh my God. You were right all along. They are both safe and sound. Alright Tan Ao Su, let's go quickly. She was puzzled. What do you mean? We're going to check on them, he said as they entered the delivery room. The mother was holding her baby. Look at this little guy, Diana. His eyes look just like yours. He will definitely grow up strong like you. God bless you. You're safe now, my love. Look here. This is your father. Outside the window were Mr. Lee and Tan Ao Su peeking in. Mr. Lee checked on the baby's information. No name yet, age, 5 minutes, remaining lifespan, 87 years. This is his life information. I see, she said understandingly, so he doesn't have a name yet, that's why it doesn't show up. At this moment 2 assistants came in and told the couple to name their baby. The husband was puzzled. What should we call him? Should we name him Levi or Garage or Mason? Tan Ao Su outside was wondering, sir, the name they chose doesn't seem to match that person in the future. Did we get the wrong person? Mr. Lee felt it was impossible. The name of the child was still undetermined. He said, pulling out his watch, and said to Tan Ao Su, Tan Ao Su, it's all thanks to you. She was still puzzled. What? Me? The watch began to freeze time. Tan Ao Su went inside. She was amazed to see everything around her as if it were motionless. She tiptoed gently like a thief, went to whisper the name of the child into the wife's ear. When time returned to normal, the wife shouted out, the name is Nicholas. The husband was puzzled. My love, what did you say? I heard someone in the air guiding me, telling me the name of the child is Nicholas Tesla. The husband ran to pat his wife on the shoulder. My dear, you must be too tired and thinking nonsense. I think naming him Mason is better. But the wife insisted that no, this is definitely not an illusion. Hearing this name, even the midwife had to exclaim, oh my God. This must be a revelation from God. This child is chosen by God and will do great things in the future. Oh, is that so? That's indeed my son then. His name will be Nicholas Tesla. On the way home, Tan Ao Su had many questions. Sir, I still don't understand. You have time acceleration, why don't you fast forward time until Nicholas grows up? We just stay here, isn't it a waste of time? Mr. Lee replied, Nicholas Tesla, a man considered close to God, witnessing important moments of a lifetime, don't you find it very interesting? At this point, the carriage driver turned back and reported, Sir, this is the house you are looking for. With all due respect, I think a wealthy person like you would not choose a house here. There's something I need on this side. The couple was talking to each other. It's time for us to change to a new wind wheel. He knew the word baby, but the recent union situation was not very promising. He hoped he would not be laid off. Then they looked over, there was a couple renting next door. Oh! There are new people renting houses, it seems they are also declining like us. Then Mr. Lee went over to shake hands and introduce himself. Hello couple. I am Mr. Lee, a businessman from heaven came here to do business. Looking at you guys really doesn't look alike, they apologized. We're also meeting people from the east for the first time. Looking at this little guy it seems very promising. Mr. Lee was very pleased. I also look forward to us being neighbors for the next 10 years. We live in this small town. I became Nikola Tesla's neighbor and watched this genius boy grow up bit by bit. As a genius naturally he could not avoid that permanent setup. Focusing too much on something would not harmonize with everyone else. Being a genius is not easy either. It was getting dark. Nikola's father was waiting at the door. Seeing his son sneaking in he said, You're late, son. Nikola greeted, Good evening, father. Don't hide anymore, I've seen your pile of junk already, your mother's food has gone cold already, go apologize to her. Then father and son went out to the bridge to chat with each other. Son, why are you wasting your time learning these useless things? You know our family's current situation, right? What you should do is inherit my career. Go back to the countryside and become a teacher? Your father has fulfilled your grandfather's wish, but is that what your father wants? Today, be careful with what you say, Nikola. All we want is for our family to no longer suffer from hunger. But father, I'm only interested in electrical engineering. This is the future of science and technology. I want to make inventions that will change this world. How can I change the world? That's something only geniuses can think of. You are my son. You can only be a union teacher. But father, throw away those nonsense ideas. I won't say it a second time. Hearing his father say this, the boy sighed. At this moment, Tanaeosu came over and said, "R.A., you seem to be having some trouble? Can't negotiate this time either? It's just that my father doesn't understand yet. I have no choice but to throw these things away, even though they took me a whole year to collect." I suddenly thought of something. The attic of our house happens to be empty. Look, R.A., it wouldn't be bad to make a secret warehouse there. Hearing this, the boy's eyes lit up. A warehouse? Really? Can I really use it? Mr. Lee won't mind? Actually, it was Mr. Lee's idea, and he values you very much. So even Mr. Lee is so easygoing, Aunt Tam? Can I ask you a question? Of course, go ahead. Are you two Eastern witches? Why do you ask that? I heard that you two haven't aged a bit over time, is that true? You can do the same if you do 100 squats and 200 push-ups every day, and eat lots of fruits and vegetables. That doesn't sound very believable. Just kidding, there are no witches here, but it's good for your health. Behind them was a boy who rushed over and snatched Nicholas' bag of tools. Hey, that's my stuff. What are you doing? Then the two people shouted loudly, "There's a thief! Catch the thief!" The red-haired boy ran into the alley and dumped everything out. It was all components, gears, screws. He picked it up and said, "What on earth is this mouthpiece? It's not valuable at all, it's clearly just trash. It's really unlucky, I'm so unlucky." Looking at the boy's appearance, he seemed to be homeless. He muttered to himself, thinking he would get some good food but ended up with nothing. "Before I die, I just want to have a full meal." "Oh God, please open your eyes, there are two people looking at him from above." Tanaeosu spoke up, "Sir, it's this kid, he seems to have fallen asleep, his body is shaking, he's talking in his sleep, Mom." "Mom," Tanaeosu went over to wake him up, "Hey kid, wake up." Suddenly she noticed something and quickly called Mr. Lee, "Sir, he has a high fever." Hearing this, Mr. Lee immediately checked the boy's information, nameless, 10 years old, life expectancy remaining, 8 minutes. "Sir," she said urgently, "he's a beggar child, he's wearing such thin clothes, this won't do. The child is very sick, we need to take him to the hospital quickly." Sir, Tanaeosu panicked, but Mr. Lee was terrifyingly calm. "No need, he only has 10 minutes left to live." Hearing Mr. Lee say this, Tanaeosu didn't know what to say, then she screamed, "You can use time, just 8 minutes is enough to save the child." Mr. Lee coldly said, "Compared to this beggar, I only care about Nicholas's bag of tools. This is the only thing I want. Moreover, as time travelers like us, every second here comes with a huge loss. If an unexpected incident occurs and my time is not enough, what should I do? To escape this problem, I have to weigh the pros and cons. I have decided on this matter, no need to say more." Hearing this, Tanaeosu angrily said, "You look like an arrogant dictator." "What? I didn't hear clearly." "Say it again." She shouted. "I said, sir, why have you become so cold-blooded?" "Oh, very good, you're fired from now on." She continued, "You gather so many talents and establish an immoral club. What's the point? Isn't your goal to create a new world?" She shouted so loudly that Mr. Lee had to cover his ears and said, "Now you are no longer a member of the club. If you have questions, please ask in advance." She was even more angry and continued to shout, "If that world doesn't have ordinary people living in it, then what's the point of being there alone? Please keep your humanity and don't be assimilated by the laws of time anymore because it helps us still feel that you are a human being. Hearing her say this, Mr. Lee seemed to have been enlightened. Really? Am I being assimilated by time? After hearing his secretary wake up, Mr. Lee finally agreed to help the boy and let him go home for rest and care. Meanwhile, Mr. Lee was sitting on the sofa staring at the boy named Arthur who had 10 years left to live. It turned out that Mr. Lee finally buffed 10 years of life for the boy Tan-Ao-Su. Now you speak up. Sir, I apologize for my attitude just now. I apologize. She bowed sincerely and said sorry again. I heard you say those words when you were sober. She continued to bow and said sorry again. But suddenly I remembered something. In the club, your cousin's niece's second aunt's single aunt got married, so for the next month you will be responsible for cleaning Robert and Banghao's workspace. Hearing this she was shocked. What? The room of those two pigs? Oh my God. At this moment the boy woke up and called for his mother. Tan-Ao-Su immediately ran over to check on him. How are you feeling now? The boy saw Tan-Ao-Su and was so scared that he broke out in a sweat. He quickly stood up and tried to run out of the room. Mr. Lee spoke up. Even a thank you can't be said before leaving? The boy was pulled by Mr. Lee. His legs were hanging in the air. He kept screaming, "My legs! My legs!" Mr. Lee turned to his secretary. This woman sacrificed her end-of-year bonus and salary for 6 months just to save that kid. If he wants to leave now, it seems inappropriate. She was shocked when she heard these words. What? There's also a salary issue? Seeing Mr. Lee's miracles made the boy believe more in the rumor that Mr. Lee was a witch. He knelt down and worshipped Mr. Lee. Supreme Witch, sir, I worship you. Stand up before talking, he said. My name is Arthur. I came here with my foster mother. Oh, does the kid's mother know that the kid went out to steal? I was told by that man. He told me to come to this town and steal something. Tan-Ao-Su asked him, Are you my foster father? That's outrageous. Why make a child do such a thing? He is not my foster father. He is a scoundrel who moved to a forest. This is that scoundrel foster father, he cursed under his breath. Why hasn't this brat come back yet? Did he die on the way? I can't stand it anymore, you rascal. Is dinner ready yet? How long do you plan to keep me hungry? The frightened woman replied, We are out of flour. I will go pick wild vegetables and be back soon. He heard her say she was going to pick wild vegetables and ran over to knock her down. She shouted loudly, Pick wild vegetables? Do you think I don't know you want to go find that brat? Not on my watch. Then he rushed over to beat her up. Don't, you rascal, eat my food, drink my water and dare to defy me. Your rascal son is really a waste, only knows how to eat. Her desperate screams echoed through the forest. He was panting after beating her. She was gasping for breath, still worried about her sick son Arthur. He will die soon, please. He heard this and strangled his wife. If he really could die outside, that would be too appropriate. I want it that way. To be honest with you, recently I've been thinking about replacing you. You hear me, rascal? His wife had no strength to answer him. Hey, don't play dead. I'm showing mercy here. Get up quickly and make dinner. It's really bad luck. She used to take a beating pretty well. Let the wolves deal with the body then. Mr. Lee in the distance saw all of this. After killing his wife, he was annoyed at having to arrange things himself. Now I have to carry things like this myself. It seems I have to lure another woman here. Behind him came Mr. Lee's voice, Excuse me for interrupting. I came from afar and wanted to trade with you. What are you doing? Your voice sounds strange. He turned around. I have nothing for sale here. I advise you to get out of here quickly and stop being nosy. He looked at Mr. Lee and thought to himself, could he have seen what happened earlier? Mr. Lee just smirked. The woman is dead now, isn't she? Instead of letting the wild wolves benefit from it, why not find a way with me to make money? He looked at his wife's body and said, "What are you talking about? Can a dead person be exchanged for money?" Of course, he laughed loudly. Who would pay for a dead person? Mr. Lee smirked. I have a few friends in town who are medical students. They pay generously for a fresh corpse. He thought for a moment and said, Doctors? Right, I heard someone mention it before. I thought it was just gossip. Then he agreed to do business with Mr. Lee, just waiting for the opportunity. Mr. Lee tricked him into signing a contract to sell his lifespan. He was drained of his lifespan by Mr. Lee and became an old man on the verge of death. The deal was done. Mr. Lee threw some gold coins at him. This money is yours. I'm being generous and giving you a few extra coins. He couldn't believe what had just happened. It was too quick to forget. Didn't I tell you? I trade in some special products. Hearing this, he rushed to fight with Mr. Lee. You're a monster. Today I have to kill you. Mr. Lee just had to lean slightly to dodge him. He only had 5 minutes of life left. Mr. Lee teased, your remaining lifespan is enough for you to pick up this money. Mr. Lee left him to slowly feel the approach of death. Later, Mr. Lee returned in a carriage. His secretary greeted him excitedly. Sir, where is the boy's mother? Mr. Lee gently replied, she's dead. Oh my God, it's so pitiful. What will he do in the future? Or should we tell him that his mother ran away secretly? Otherwise he will definitely. Mr. Lee shouted loudly, Tan Ao Su, let go of your maternal heart. Just because he's a child doesn't mean you can take away his right to know the truth. But sir, that's too cruel. This is something he needs to experience. You should remember that he's no longer in this world. If he can't even withstand a fall, what's the point of me saving him? Hearing this, Tan Ao Su woke up. I understand, sir. I will follow your arrangement and do good things for her. Now what we can do is give her a proper funeral. Tomorrow you go to town and find a pastor. After entering the boy's house, she asked immediately, Sir, is my mother still well? Mr. Lee didn't hesitate and said directly, she's no longer in this world. Tan Ao Su beside her also sighed, that's too straightforward. Hearing this, he fell to his knees. How could this be? And that scoundrel? As expected, he must have been eaten by wild dogs by now. Mr. Lee leaned close and looked at the boy who was eager for revenge. Why don't you check it out yourself? Because you can't do it, so you can't blame him for being evil but only blame yourself for being too weak. The only way not to be bullied is to make yourself stronger. No one will line up to save you. The day after the funeral was quiet. There was no one to mourn, no one to bring flowers, but her son stayed behind, maturing before her grave. He stood in front of his mother's grave for a long time. Tan Ao Su was worried. She asked Mr. Lee, should we give him some money? Mr. Lee turned to her in surprise and quickly explained, I just feel that losing a loved one will make life difficult for the child in the future, so I think Mr. Lee would agree that this is not a bad idea. Then they took the boy home. Are you satisfied with this new house, Arthur? The boy was extremely surprised. Mr. Lee continued, although this house is a bit simple, there is a market nearby. I will give you some money to start a small business. But he didn't seem excited, he just stood still. You're not saying anything, why? It seemed he was still not satisfied. Thank you, sir, but I refuse. Tan Ao Su quickly ran over and scolded him, what do you want to do? Then she turned to Mr. Lee and said, Sir, he's still young and doesn't understand things. So what do you want? The boy knelt down and said, Please let me stay by your side. I volunteer to become your loyal servant, to work like an ox or a horse, or even a cat or a dog to repay your kindness to me. Please agree. If that's the case, you've chosen the hardest path. This makes it difficult for me. First, go home and I'll think about it. Yes, sir, I will go home and wait for your answer. When the boy left, Tanaosu turned and asked, "Sir, did you know Arthur's plan all along? But why did you test him?" This is like my previous prediction. If our contact with historical figures is inevitable in history, then Arthur is also like that. All the historical figures I have recruited have voluntarily followed me and have a close relationship with me for the rest of their lives. If Arthur doesn't have this realization, the relationship will inevitably be broken. At this point, his existence is not inevitable. Letting a vagrant outside who can't be controlled will become a potential threat. So when you started to save him, you had thought about this step? If Arthur makes the wrong choice, then yes, whatever becomes history is inevitable and will establish an eternal relationship with me or become a factor threatening the development of history. These threats must be ruthlessly eliminated. So it's not that I saved him, but that his life isn't over yet. The next day Mr. Lee decided to send Arthur to school. The boy was shocked. "Go to school?" "Yes, indeed. In the future you will also be my friend and partner managing business together." The boy seemed very insecure. "I don't know anything. I only know how to cut grass for horses." Tanaosu spoke up. "Arthur, what we need from you is not these things. If you want to stay by my side, physical strength alone is not enough, so you must go to school whether you like it or not." Then the boy mumbled something about how only rich people get an education while his face turned pale as if he had seen something terrifying. "Oh, it's just those two lovebirds. No wait, those two bullet-faced people staring at him." Then, little Arthur was so scared, he quickly bowed his head in agreement. I understand, I will study hard. I have to, right? I trust that kid." Before getting to the main issue, let's return the things that the kid had stolen before. Go in honestly and don't miss anything, even if it's just a small thing. Otherwise, I will spank that kid. The scene shifts to somewhere in town where a kid named Nicola is yawning. "Oh damn, I didn't sleep well. I didn't get enough sleep last night. If I fall asleep in class, it would be tough. It's all because of that thief who made me start all over again." Then he heard someone calling from behind him, "Good morning." "Hello there, do you remember who I am? Luckily, I found you. Otherwise, I wouldn't know what to say to my aunt. You're Nicola, right? You still don't recognize the guy in front of you." Until he took out my precious tool bag and showed it off in front of me. "Look familiar?" Nicola froze for 5 seconds. "Isn't that my tool bag?" "He is the thief." Then Nicola started to distract his father. "Why are you here?" Arthur thought he was real and turned around, but when he turned back, Nicola was gone. Arthur had to say, "Don't you want your stuff back?" As for Nicola, who was running like crazy, he must have been afraid of being robbed again because he had the tools on him and that annoying guy came again. He must be inventing something too. Then do it yourself. Why do you have to steal from me? Anyway, this time I won't be careless. Nicola thought to himself while running and looking back. He wasn't paying attention to what was ahead and bumped into someone else. He fell backward. Ouch. It hurts so much, my head is going to break. Then there were inquiries from the other person's parents who were dear to him. Are you blind? You lost an idiot piglet. Are you itching for a beating? Nicola didn't know who these guys were, but they scared him so much that his face turned pale. He thought to himself, I'm dead. The two guys continued talking. You still haven't paid off your last debt, which got me punished by a nun. Boss, why talk so much? Let's beat him up, my hands are itching. Nicola was terrified and said, I warn you, my father will teach you a lesson if you don't back off. The two guys laughed and said sarcastically, Oh really? Your father is going to teach us a lesson? We're so scared. Ah, so call him out here. My house is not afraid of country bumpkins like you. They are beating Nicola. As for you, still worry about your pile of components, don't step on my components. And then Arthur ran to save. Those guys were hit in the face by a lump of horse manure thrown by young Arthur. He took the wet lump on his face and looked at it. Here it is, it's done. He put his hand into his nose to smell the fresh hot horse smell, so the young man screamed in disgust. As for Nicola, he was standing still not knowing what was happening. Arthur approached and pulled Nicola to run. Don't look there anymore, you're about to be late. I will be scolded by the teacher if I don't go to school today. His scream echoed throughout the town. Tesla, wait for me there. As for Arthur and Nicola, they were laughing. You there, it's great when the person being robbed is saved by the thief. Then the two sat down to talk instead of chasing. By the way, what the hell is going on with you? Before, you stole my components, but now you suddenly appear to help me. Why? I apologize for that, I had no other choice at the time. Forget it, I don't want to talk about it anymore. So can we be friends? Okay. I am Nikola Tesla, and my name is Arthur. Any country 1885. At this point Arthur had grown up, a young man, returning from school called out, Mom and Dad, I'm home now. Tan Ao Su stepped down the stairs. School is on vacation again, why does time really fly so fast? Yes, instead I find school quite boring. But this time I brought back something that Dad might be very interested in. Tan Ao Su heard Arthur say that and also thought to himself, does Mr. have a new hobby? Then Arthur continued, this is a certificate of purchase of shares of railway and shipping companies. I worked very hard to get it. After looking at it for a while, Tan Ao Su also had to exclaim, this is indeed a promising investment, but I don't know if Mr. really values this investment. In a few years, the stocks of railway companies will definitely make a profit like going to heaven. Your intuition is getting sharper. I've calculated it already, Mom. As long as everything goes smoothly, we can make a lot of money from this deal. When that time comes, our family's assets will. At this point Mr. Lee came out and said, don't be blinded by the petty profits in front of you. As a businessman, you must always keep your head cool. Didn't we teach you that already, Arthur? Tan Ao Su heard that and also hurriedly bowed and said to his father, Mr. Lee, Sir Cha, it's because I'm impatient. Hearing the kid talk to himself like that, Mr. Lee was still not used to it. Then let your son sit down and enjoy a cup of coffee. Arthur seems a bit confused. Why are you looking at me like that? He was wondering, it's been so many years already, parents have no signs of aging at all. Hearing the kid say that, Mr. Lee still smirked. He changed the subject and said to his son, but have you been in touch with Nicola lately? That friend of mine sent a letter saying he was going to settle in M country and said he found a job at a new company of some inventor. But with his talent I'm afraid he will be buried by that small company only. Mr. Lee cunningly said, not only buried but also brought disaster upon himself. Arthur was startled. What do you mean by saying that, Dad? Arthur, although Nicola is very talented, he is still a child. When faced with the calculations of others, Mom and Dad, you two seem to understand him well, so wouldn't he because of that? We will go help him with everything here. Will we leave everything to you? What are you two parents talking about? At this point, Tan Ao Su finally told the truth. Sorry, Arthur, we've been in this era for too long. Besides, you've grown up and can be independent. Mr. Lee continued, there is an old proverb in the East, no matter how fun the party is, it must end, but you don't need to worry. We are not saying goodbye. After Mr. Lee finished speaking, he began to show off for his son to see. Arthur was very proud before leaving. Mr. Lee instructed his son, this miracle will help us meet again after many years, and you must not back down in the face of difficulties. Arthur looked at his father and had to exclaim, Father is great. Then, Mr. Lee displayed the information of his son Arthur, age 22, remaining lifespan, all are unknowns. Mr. Lee said to Arthur, I once told you that your lifespan after 7 years is given by me, and you will continue to live. Now, sign this contract to become a member of my longevity club. I will grant you an eternal life and endless wealth. Remember the rules you need to follow and complete the tasks I assigned to you. We still have a day to say goodbye." Hearing Mr. Lee say that, Arthur didn't know what to say, was silent for a while, then Arthur bowed in front of Mr. Lee. "Yes, sir." Mr. Lee began to buff Arthur's lifespan before leaving. "There are many rules bound by time, including unconditional loyalty. No doubt about this at all. Accept my blessing, you will enjoy the wealth and power that a long life brings." A lot of light around him, he knelt down feeling his own changes have changed a lot compared to before. Then his information appeared with a remaining lifespan of 110 years. Arthur felt this way, his body was like returning to childhood full of energy. Then Taneo Su spoke up, "This house and all our assets here, we will leave it to you. In the future when we meet again, I am sure that you have become a great person who can call the wind and summon the rain." "Yes, Mom, I understand." "Arthur, now I will reveal some details about the future development for you. I want you to create and expand your power to search for and recruit more talents." "Yes, I understand." Then the three of them came to Arthur's pier to see off their adoptive parents. "Mom and Dad, are you really going to go to the new continent on this ship? It looks pretty old too. On the other side there are a few better ships." "It's okay. We also want to take a good look at this world one more time. After all, we have lived here in this era for nearly a century. We really don't want to leave here." All right, Dad, remember to send my regards to Nikola Tesla for me. Maybe I will go there in the future to finance stocks or something else." Arthur looked at Mr. Lee like his father, revealing a sad face when about to part silent for a while. Then Mr. Lee spoke up, "Everything here depends on you, goodbye." Then the two set off.